It started innocently enough. My wife, Rachel, had always been sociable. She thrived on attention, which I didn't mind. She'd light up a room with her laugh and draw people in like a magnet. It was one of the things I fell in love with. But somewhere along the way, her need for validation exceeded the bounds of our marriage. It was a Saturday night, and we were hosting a dinner party, something Rachel loved. She insisted on doing it all, the cooking, the decorations, even the seating arrangements. It was her domain, and I was happy to let her take the reins. We had invited some of our closest friends, including a couple of her colleagues from work. Among them was Derek, a cocky, smirking man who oozed arrogance in every movement. I didn't like him, but Rachel had insisted. "He's harmless," she said. The night started well. Wine flowed, conversations grew louder, and laughter filled the room. I was in the kitchen refilling glasses when I overheard Rachel talking to her best friend, Emily. They were tucked away in a corner, and Rachel's voice had dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. I wouldn't have paid attention except for the way she said it, with a mix of giddiness and pride. "I mean, have you seen Derek? That man is a god. And let me tell you, Emily, he knows how to use it," she said, giggling like a teenager. I froze. My heart thundered in my chest, and my hands went numb. The words were so jarring, so surreal, that I thought I must have misheard. But Emily's sharp intake of breath confirmed it. "Rachel, are you serious? What about James?" Emily's voice was horrified but quiet. "Oh, please. James is great, but he's boring. He's predictable. Derek is something else. And he's huge. James could never." She let the sentence trail off, the implication like a dagger in my chest. Couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I'd spent 10 years building a life with, was bragging about her affair in our home, during a party I helped host. It was a humiliation I didn't know how to process. But instead of confronting her in that moment, I walked back into the kitchen, set the wine bottle on the counter, and forced myself to think clearly. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I played the dutiful host, laughing and joking with everyone, including Derek. But inside, I was unraveling. I needed to know the full extent of her betrayal before I acted. Over the next week, I became a man possessed. I checked phone records, emails, anything I could find, and what I uncovered confirmed my worst fears. Explicit messages, photos, plans to meet up during her work lunches. The evidence was damning. But I wasn't just going to confront her. No, I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions. I wanted the world to see what she had done. I planned meticulously. I hired a private investigator to gather irrefutable proof. I learned that Derek had a wife, Lisa, who had recently given birth to their first child. I reached out to her anonymously, sharing what I knew. She was devastated but thankful for my honesty. Together, we decided that the truth needed to come out in a way neither Rachel nor Derek could escape. 2 weeks later, Rachel decided to host another dinner party. She was in high spirits, completely unaware of what was coming. I made sure Derek was invited. He showed up with his usual swagger, flashing me a grin as he walked through the door. Took everything in me not to knock him out right there. But I waited. The timing had to be perfect. Halfway through the evening, I tapped my glass for attention. "Everyone, can I have a moment? I want to share something very special." Rachel beamed at me, probably thinking I was about to make some sappy declaration of love. The room quieted, and I pulled out my laptop, connecting it to the TV. "Rachel has always been the light of my life," I began, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "But recently, I've learned that she's been sharing that light with someone else." Confusion spread across the room. Rachel's smile faltered. "James, what are you talking about?" she asked, a nervous laugh escaping her. I ignored her and pressed play. The screen filled with screenshots of text messages between her and Derek. Explicit, undeniable, and horrifying. Gasps erupted around the room. Derek's smirk vanished, replaced by a pale, panicked expression. Rachel jumped up, her face flushed. "James, stop this right now." But I wasn't done. I had saved the piece de resistance for last. The investigator had captured photos of Rachel and Derek at a hotel, locked in an embrace. They were time-stamped and clear as day. The room erupted into chaos. Friends whispered. Emily looked like she might be sick. And Derek's wife, Lisa, who I had invited as my guest, stood up. "You disgust me," Lisa spat at Derek. "You lied to me, to our family, and this is what you do? With her." She pointed at Rachel, who was now sobbing. Derek tried to speak. "Lisa, please, let me explain." But she wasn't having it. "Explain? You think there's an explanation for this?" She turned to me. "Thank you for telling me. You've done me a favor." And with that, she walked out, leaving Derek scrambling after her. The room fell silent. All eyes were on Rachel, who was a wreck. She turned to me, her voice trembling. "James, please, let's talk about this privately." I shook my head. "Privately? You bragged about him in our home during a party I helped you host. You humiliated me without a second thought. Now you can face the consequences in front of everyone." She collapsed into a chair, covering her face with her hands. The sympathy she might have hoped for never came. Our friends were too stunned, too betrayed by the deceit they'd been unwittingly complicit in. Over the next few days, Rachel tried everything to win me back. She begged. She cried. She even tried blaming me for not being exciting enough. But I was done. I filed for divorce, and when we divided our assets, I made sure the world knew why. She lost friends, respect, and the life we'd built together. Derek didn't fare much better. Lisa took him to the cleaners in the divorce, and the scandal ruined his career. As for me, I'm moving forward. It's not easy, but there's a strange sense of peace in knowing I stood up for myself, that I refused to be a doormat. And while Rachel and Derek are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, I'm building something better. Without them,